This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an addition. I just think it's fair for a point of clarity. We will put on the screen when it comes to item number 3, there was a small additional comment added to the sign ordinance that Mr. Wright will cover during that time. So what's in the packet does not reflect what is handed out to you. We will put the revision on the screen, but I just wanted to be transparent. But that is your item tonight to discuss anyway. Only action if board decides for public hearing.
Yes, sir. Anybody else have anything we need to add? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, public comment, as always. Public comment. Yeah, all right, come on up.
No, thank you. Sorry, I just got back from Kentucky. I don't know if you've heard yet or not, Jennifer Hayes, our victim witness director, she sent in her resignation last week. Her last day will be the 30th or 31st, July 31st of this month. She will be going to Orange County to serve as their director of victim witness. They'll say they kindly called and asked if that would be okay, and I begrudgingly said that it would be. We have posted the job on the website, on the county website, and I think Tilly has also submitted it to a few other places that she's aware of. She already sent me a few applications today, and it's going to be available and open through the end of next week. And so we are hopeful that we can get the position filled quickly so that we can continue a lot of the good work that we've started with Jennifer. Jennifer will be starting in Orange on August 1st, but as part of her transition over there, they have agreed to let her come back once we have someone hired to make sure that they are trained and up to date on all of the BCJS grant stuff and all of the other bits and pieces of the program. So while we are very, very sad to see her go, good news for Orange. Hopefully it'll be good news for us maybe in a few months.
Thank you. All right, other public comment. Alan, how many people do we have watching? 0 people. That's terrible. All right, public comment, we're gonna do it again later. Consent agenda, we have minutes from 6/27/2023 and then 7-5/2023, and then a supplemental appropriation number 21, which is for $52K for the server upgrade pertaining to the ERP. I think everybody was here. Questions, comments, thoughts, and motion?
Now, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No special appearances. Sign ordinance. Hannon, you want to start? And then this is the amended item.
So, going back over a couple of things. One is the sign ordinance had previously defined political signs. There was a Supreme Court case that said such signs are a violation of the First Amendment. They need to be content neutral. So even defining political signs is problematic, I'll say. So instead of adding this into as part of Article 12, Section 1, I thought it made more sense to put it in 12.6 as a new Article 15 to just talk about what permitted signs are during the period around elections. So it doesn't define what these signs are. They could be for anything. It is in fact free speech in that regard. And then this was ran through the election board. We got good comments from them. And I think it meets their concerns. And then just to make, part of the whole purpose of this was to avoid blight, to avoid problems with mowing here at the administrative campus. So the last 2 sentences have been added in draft form today to try to make it clear that these are the only signs that are going to be allowed during this window and in these places during election periods on county property, county-owned property.
Mr. Weekly, you have anything to add?
I just want to make sure, I know we pulled our public hearing that was originally scheduled for 7/11 to make sure we give proper attention, whether it's comments from the board, concerns from citizens, and/or the electoral board. So what was a good thing, and I think 1 or 2 of the supervisors had mentioned, captioned his comments. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Wright have communicated to capture any of those concerns as he stated. So What you have before you, we just want to make sure that it is the preference of the board, that we've captured any concerns or addressed any concerns or hear any additional comments or concerns you have tonight before we would schedule for a public hearing.
All right, who has comments, concerns, questions? Anybody? Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask Mr. Wright, now, this does apply to this building as well?
When you say it applies to it, I don't think this is considered a polling place. So signs would not be permitted on this administrative campus.
Okay, okay. Now, I just will make one comment, and I know this from a practical standpoint, this is something that we need to do. I have reservations about anything that even smacks at restricting First Amendment free speech. And quite frankly, I don't know whether you saw this week, but Pew Research came out with a poll. 52% of Americans believe it's okay for the government and big tech to censor. And we are already down the slippery slope, and I think in a generation, the Bill of Rights are going to disappear, and that's unfortunate. But I can support this. I know the Electoral Board had input on it, and I think from a practical standpoint, to keep clutter away from this building, it's probably advisable to do this.
No, I don't have anything further.
I think everybody's in agreement with you, Jim,
Yeah.
in every way. I mean, my only comment on political signs, and that goes for pretty much every other sign that's not like a household or a business or something. I think it makes a beautiful, beautiful county look trashy. And that includes my own signs. I hate seeing them. But it's keeping them away from some of this county property. It's just like VDOT right-of-ways. I don't think we're trying to restrict in any way, but it's just kind of, that's just what it is. When would we like to go to public hearing on this as far as advertisement? I'd assume that we are too late for the first meeting in August. What about the August 23rd meeting?
I think that would be appropriate. It would definitely meet guidelines. The only thing of the new standard, and Hannah can weigh in on this, remember there was some changes at the General Assembly on advertising. So there's this 14 days from the last advertisement to board action. That doesn't force you into board action that night. Just know that if you did not take action that meeting, we would have to do another advertisement to meet those requirements. But it's no issue, sir. Forgive me for not having my list in front of me. I feel like we have one additional item coming before you on the second meeting in August already, so not a problem.
Anybody have any issue with this? Wouldn't the other item, the
Oh,
MOA?
it's zoning. MOA.
MOU, excuse me.
Yeah, well, we need to talk
Yeah, I
about that
know.
tonight to
That's
see what you want to do.
That's right.
The other one, I believe, is the zoning fees, rezoning
yep, there you
fees, what
go.
we were looking at.
Does anybody have any issue with trying to shoot this one at the second meeting, our second regular meeting in August, which would be August 23rd? Does that work?
Yep.
Let's go, let's do that. Anything else on that topic? All right, let's move to new business. Ms. Warren, tell us about the 23 fiscal end year report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The budget versus actual report, this is preliminary financials for the county, and this is as of July 20th. The bulk of our FY23 revenue and expenditures have been recorded in the general fund. However, I do want to note that we will have additional revenues come in and be recorded during the months of August and September. That's traditional and typical. We could also see some additional FY23 expenditures coming in between now and the audit. It'll be minimal, but there may be a few things. And there will be final adjusting journal entries that are made during the audit. The preliminary financial update includes the general fund only, as other funds such as CSA and VPA are a month behind us, and they're still recording transactions right now. Just to note, FY '23 revenues exceeded expenditures in the general fund, which will result in additional fund balance. Revenues for FY '23, we received $348K in additional revenues above our projections. And FY '23 expenditures overall in the general fund, we are $403,000 under budget from our projections. I do plan to do a capital fund update in the month of August, September. Jonathan and I will probably do a joint report to you, not only on the capital fund, but on the actual capital projects and the status of them. The FY '23 audit is expected to take place starting in October, and the final FY '23 comprehensive audited financial report will be presented by the audit firm in December. On the next slide, this is I wanted to do the top 10 revenues and just give you a quick report across the top 10 where we have gone over budget, brought in higher revenues than projected. On the real property, all categories, we have about $305,000 above budget. I did speak to the commissioner and the treasurer just to get some notes on these items. And the projection of new construction was lower due to unknown response to economic impact of COVID. Also, the economists were predicting a recession, and our projections were conservative on real property. On the personal property side, right now, we're about $679,000 higher in revenues than budgeted. The valuations went up, as we all know, on personal property items, and the board reduced the tax rate from $3.60 to $3. On local sales tax, we're over by about $111,000, and the Department of Taxation doesn't release their estimates until after the budget's adopted, so that's a hard number for us to know until after budget time, but it did come in about $111,000 higher. Restaurant food tax was is right now $153,000 higher, and when we developed the FY '23 budget, conservative estimates were used due to the predicted recession. On the interest income, obviously we know the federal interest rate hikes. We increased revenue above budget is like $600,000. That's a large one for us. On the grant side, across all of our grants, I lumped them all together, we're right at $188,000 higher in revenue above our projection. And the notes I have are our SRO grant, the additional LVA, which is the Library of Virginia Records grant, and the county received other miscellaneous grants such as forestry, PSAP 911, which is Public Safety Answering Point 911, and equipment grants. On the ambulance transports is another category. We were about $87,000 higher. Ambulance transports have increased, and when we projected the '23 budget, we looked across 3 fiscal years to do an average, but we have increased that projection for '24. On waste collection disposal, about $109,000 higher in revenues. There has been an increase in county billings, as we probably all know, for commercial and other items disposed of at the transfer station. Note that our billing rates have not increased to the general public who we bill, even though our vendor rates have increased to us. But the good news is although we have seen higher expenditures at the transfer station, we have actually been able to offset that on the revenue side by collecting additional revenues for the billings that we do for the waste collection disposal. On the proceeds from real estate sale, this was the county, the Thrift Road sale. We didn't have that in the budget. That was $250,000 in revenues. The building permit side, about $77,000 over budget. There's been an increase in building permits from previous years. And then on transient occupancy tax, $65K. On October 1st of 2022, Airbnb started collecting the tax for all the customers, and they hadn't done that prior. So also the number of Airbnb rentals have increased, and all of this has led to an increase in revenues for FY '23, and we did increase our FY '24 projection on this as well. And then across all other revenue categories lumped together, $264,000 over budget. On the ARPA funds, we had projected $2.5 million for but with the broadband delay, we weren't able to account for that revenues at this time. Overall, in the general fund, $348,202 available above in revenues above what we projected. The next slide is the expenditures of the general fund, and basically how I did this was the top 10 are starred on the left, and this is top 10 in terms of overall budget total. So as you can see, all of the various departments, codes are listed there for you. And I'm just going to highlight the one where I have an explanation. On the sheriff, I just want to note that this budget and expense actual includes all the cost centers underneath the sheriff's department code. The EMS, we ran over about 54,000 at the EMS budget. Overtime was much higher than budgeted on the EMS side, and that accounted for them in the month of June going over on that, in that category. The EOC, Emergency Communications, E911, he had a remaining balance of about 97,000 in his budget, and I did check on that. This is a factor of attrition. There were continued staffing issues throughout the year, so his salaries and wages were much lower than projected. On the transfer station, the rates increased in the middle of the year, as we know, so we ran over about 67,000 in that category. Clerk of the Circuit Court, this is 100% related to the Orange MOU that we did not budget for. It got missed in the budget. We have an MOU with Orange County to pay the Circuit Court judge's secretarial cost, a portion of it, and it was about it was right at $29,000, I believe, was the expense for the year. So that was a budget miss. And then going down on joint services, it was only about 55 over, but that was just more fire programs fund revenue that we received than budgeted, and that extra revenue was dispersed to the volunteer fire department. The treasurer had significant increases in postage and DMV fees. We received, I just want to note, an additional $14K in DMV stop fee revenue that would actually offset her deficit there. On animal control, there was much more overtime than budgeted, so they ran over slightly by about 7,600. The registrar, she needed extra part-time employee support throughout the year, or during her maternity leave. That was brought her part-time number over slightly. And then going down to the county attorney, obviously we know the county paid a new attorney for the last 2 months of the fiscal year during Sean Gregg's transition. So the transition, the attorney fees brought us over on that category. However, across all of the general fund, the total available budget remaining expenditures was $403,563. So we were still in the positive there. Any questions for me on the general fund and how things looked at the end of the year?
No,
Yeah.
pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're 751, we're 751K ahead.
In the general fund,
Yeah,
correct?
exactly, without the capital. I mean, it seems to me that used as the two examples coming off of your, you just walk down the list and it's pretty astounding. And I know y'all honed like crazy for the last, 2 years now, we've been trying to hit, actual budgeted, revenues in a very, very factual way based on historic data. But still, we just came in hot, which is not a bad way to go, especially in comparison to what we used this last year on beginning appropriations, 400K or something. So we're basically offsetting tax increases based on historical data of expenditures and revenues being one under and then the other above. And we've been able to maintain these tax rates for everybody for a long time. I think consistency of tax rate's a big one. The big concern always on taxes is overtaxation without services rendered. And I think we're still cutting it pretty close on it, but doesn't sound that bad.
So the things that aren't in are CSA and what else?
EPA.
Yes,
So-
those are the large ones. The schools, I do have preliminary numbers on their under budget as well, and revenues slightly over and right on, and under
Aren't the-
budget slightly on expenditures.
Aren't the schools fairly close, though?
Yeah, very close.
Yes.
Very, very close.
And
to the
but
schools.
when CSA and VPA gonna close out? Aren't they almost to October?
I think, I've heard, since it's my first year, this is what I'm going by, is what I've heard is about they're a month behind. They do, they have their, they send in their requests for reimbursement and things like that. So yes, it could be September timeframe.
So, I don't know whether you had a chance to look in the past, but we typically, there's no surprises with those two, or we could get surprised.
No,
What's the-
I've actually met and spoken with on the CSA side, and we've been going through numbers
Yeah.
and looking at their budget, so no surprises that I'm aware of.
Except for those years, and that's been a long time ago, where CSA had some issues, and we put money, we encumbered money as stabilization fund, basically. They've been going in a very positive direction with Tiffany Woodard running the show at this point, and what's her name? Valerie Ward, of course. Yeah.
And today at the board meeting, we were talking about 7 years ago, there were 100 and some kids. Now they're 13.
Good Lord. That is great.
Really?
13 and 4 in foster futures.
That is
The
terrific.
Yeah,
foster
so
care
it's,
movement, on the
thinks
positive
they're
note,
doing
has
a
truly
better
made the
job
difference.
of prevention,
Good, good. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I ran through with Valerie, Celine, their budget, just looking through everything and kind of truing up what we have in our system from what they, making sure everything trues up and syncs up, and no surprises at all there. But they're still posting transactions.
Anybody else have comments for this pretty good news in general?
I would like to make a recommendation on the actual departments that ran over on budget. It's my recommendation that we leave the numbers as is so that it helps for budget planning going forward in the future, because the general fund is under budget. I think that would be smart for us to do.
This comment came up, well, I guess we were talking last week, or maybe
Agenda
Miss
review.
Warren, Miss Warren maybe was on the phone. It seems like we do ourselves a tremendous disservice by moving money around and showing positives or zero balances instead of negatives. I mean, all this tracks to the budgeting process that y'all are just continuing to hone even more and more. Why would we adjust to make something look better when things are not that bad and manageable, but it gives us a better basis for direction on this upcoming fiscal year?
I think throughout the year, as things arise where there might be a request for additional monies that are needed, that's one thing, that's different. But when it comes to the end of the year, as we look across the numbers, if we're on the positive side overall, it doesn't make sense to do any sort of adjustments. We want to see the true numbers for budget purposes.
That does mean that anybody that asks for money, we're gonna scrutinize in every way, publicly. But no, this is real positive. I mean, it just kinda goes to Madison County. I mean, good Lord. Anybody else got anything on this? Thank you, Mrs. Warren.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. All right, Thomas Jefferson Area Criminal Justice Board appointment. Mr. Weekly, or, excuse me, Ms. Turner.
Alrighty, so Miss Clarissa Berry, her term ran out at the end of June, and she did receive a certificate for her years of service, which was much appreciated. And she didn't leave it at that. She also gave us a really great recommendation for the Thomas Jefferson Area Criminal Justice Board. Miss Edwards, who's here today, put in an application which is in your packet for you to vote on if you would like to go ahead and appoint her to that board.
Ms. Edwards, thank you, and thank you for coming. I hear you're exceedingly enthusiastic about this, which does make us question you. Anything you'd like to say, Ms. Edwards?
It'll be on
Yeah,
YouTube.
talk to us.
I don't really have anything to say. I've been with the Department of Corrections now. It's been 5 years roughly. Right now, I'm a supervisor of the sex offender and intensive supervision team. So I work directly with victims, with the probationers and everything else. And we cover Greene, Madison, Orange, and Culpeper. So I'm just excited to be able to kind of assist the county in any way possible with any avenue from the department side, and as well as my just experience working with this population and just our community, trying to keep it safe.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Edwards?
Well, did you realize this was a 35-year term?
I didn't, but at this point, I'm committed.
What would y'all like to do?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Shanice Edwards to the Thomas Jefferson Area Criminal Justice Board.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very, very much. Look forward to working with you. Thank you for Clarissa for getting us somebody. All right. Hoover Ridge Project Engineering Proposal. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you may recall, during budget time, during the capital budget process, you all approved roughly $212K, basically for engineering services and design for the proposed Hoover Ridge Outdoor Recreation Center, which encompasses many of things, neat features such as splash pad, walkability, accessible playground, and some sport courts, and importantly, relocating hockey, which I think is kind of the lone ranger of bringing all youth sports or programs for Parks and Rec under kind of that Hoover Ridge site. So we have you all formed a committee. We had a meeting, worked to develop a scope of work with WW Associates, came back, received the proposal, discussed that proposal, I believe it was last week. They have put forth in two separate proposals because our service agreement, you may remember this kind of verbiage I talked about during the Hurt and Profit proposal for the EMS renovation. Our professional service agreement for our engineer firms, which are two, Hurt and Profit and WW, you cannot have a task order that exceeds $100,000, but not to do anything dubious. We broke down the service, so not just the dollars, so it couldn't exceed, broke down the service. So you'll have preliminary design. That's the point where the committee and ultimately, I imagine the Parks and Rec Board, definitely the Board of Supervisors as the governing body, will look at those renditions. So you'll probably see a 30% kind of preliminary design, a 60%, and you'll get at that last bit before you go into final construction and bid services for that. So the total cost of both proposals is $194,500. It is under budget versus your FY24 budgeted number of $212,000. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have or comments.
And this is a recommendation from the planning group and then also PRA.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's very important to point out. The committee is the Hoover Ridge Project Committee is recommending this for approval, but it is also my understanding the Parks and Rec Authority at their last board meeting also voted to endorse, I guess you could, is the proper term, this proposal.
Questions, thoughts? What do you all want to do?
Yeah, looks pretty good there. Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the county administrator to execute the preliminary design proposal for $97,500 and the final design and construction services proposal for $97,000 even, for a total of $194,500.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I know Parks and Rec will be happy with that.
I'll just add to Mr.
Please.
Chairman, I appreciate the efforts of Parks and Rec as well. I know Ms. Von Herbeles met with Culpeper Wellness Foundation on Friday. She had reported back that meeting went very well. I think there's some additional conversations to be had on naming rights. Sometimes that's a good fundraising effort, if you will, to attract your larger donors when it comes to naming a building or placing a sign. So they are well underway. As some of you who serve on that board know, additional fundraising that's happened, whether it's through a sport such as hockey or so forth. But we are appreciative, whether it's PRA members or staff that are out there already hitting the ground running they know that it's additional monies beyond the general fund that will take to fund this project. So I just want to take time to recognize that.
Just a side note on it, they have raised and have committed, they don't have it all in the bank yet, just over $2 million. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of money that people have committed to this project, so I mean, I'm shocked. Anything else on this one? All right, discussion items. We've got a resolution honoring a fallen officer and a request to amend the LODA. Mr. Weekly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Line of Duty Act, it's kind of sombering talking about that, but obviously that was enacted upon by the General Assembly for those who pay the ultimate price in law enforcement. So that is a payment to the family of those fallen officers. How it's currently defined is not for what I would refer to as a private law enforcement. So Nelson County's county administrator sent over to me the resolution that Nelson County had passed, as well as a template. Officer Mark Christopher Wingate at the Massanutten, what's that? Wagner, thank you. Thank you, sir, for that important correction. Wagner II had served 7 years with the Massanutten Police Department, but Massanutten Police, like other police departments, are not recognized by the General Assembly as defined by the Line of Duty Act. So not only is Nelson County recognizing and remembering the fallen officer, they're asking for Madison County support. Now, I would imagine they are reaching out to other counties beyond Madison to gain support to lobby the General Assembly to consider amending the Line of Duty Act. I did reach out, as I always would, no matter what the subject is. I reach out to the subject matter expert. In this case was Sheriff Weaver, who's totally fine with me sharing this tonight. I asked this in advance. But I wanted to get his opinion because I know it's a tight-knit community, and how is that viewed? And his comment to me verbatim was, Jonathan, anyone who is honoring and putting on that uniform to serve and protect should qualify. So I just wanted to share with you his comments. Wanted to put as a discussion item, I think Mr. Wright may have some comments or kind of questions he would like to gather before we would look to maybe put this as an action item, or you would consider as an action item. So it's there for discussion. If I may, Mr. Chairman, to call on Mr. Wright, if there's anything in addition, sir, that you want to add.
So my only questions when this came up were, in terms of putting a position on this, was, what are sort of the maybe unanticipated side effects or unintended consequences of when you expand this legislation. That's all. It's really not even our call. I mean, this would be a General Assembly amendment, but that was the only thing that occurred to me as this thing came up. But, I mean, of course, this is, at least from the accounts I've read about what the officer did was, he was heroic, and then he's killed trying to stop the assailant. So no issues there, of course, but that was the only thoughts I had about it.
Have you identified any unintended consequences?
I think it just turns into how you define these things in terms of what qualifies, and then what are the benefits and what aren't, for essentially a private police officer.
And I think to define a little more, I mean, I think, Hannah and I had some conversations. It is defining. So certainly, you got Wintergreen. I've got family who lives in Aquia. Is this the similar situation for Aquia Harbor? Does this go into, and I mean this with sincerity, does this go into, I'm sure many of you have been to John Paul Jones Arena events where they have, I don't know if it's RMC or it's some type of hired group, and I don't know what their legal responsibility is, if they're allowed to carry, or would they fall in this. So there are just questions to ponder in doing so, but again, the decision will go with the General Assembly, but as anything, they look to localities. If there's support for it, they may look at it a little more heavier when it comes time to do so. So it's discussion. If you want to talk it over, bring it back next meeting. If you feel a certain way tonight, but it's really there from a request from Nelson. We checked in with Sheriff Weaver here and bringing it to you tonight for basically any feedback you may have, or if there's any messaging you wish me to give to Nelson County, or if this is something you wish to take up as an action item.
Does anybody have questions, comments, thoughts on this?
No, so what did Sheriff Weaver say again?
Basically, anyone who is sworn to serve and protect that puts on that uniform, whether it's private or in this case where we have public servants that do it under constitutional office, is deserving to be added under the Line of Duty Act.
So that's probably where some of that definition will come in, huh? Anna is, or they sworn, or blah, or whatever, so. Yeah, that's, oh, I agree with this one.
Yeah. Everybody good on this?
Yep.
Let's bring this back to next meeting.
Okay.
Y'all want to bring it back? You have amended language? I mean, do we have a number for this thing?
I don't know if we'd have a number. I mean, I think if you wanted to pass it tonight, we can pass it as the
Anybody
template.
see any issue with this, like the reason why we should hold off on this?
No.
Give us, what do you think?
You can pass it, take the moment while I'm word filling here to see if you can find on our website the resolution number. Without that, if there's not a number, I think it would be appropriate unless Mr. Wright has other ideas or suggestions, excuse me.
You have other
To
suggestions?
put it as resolution by Madison County Board of Supervisors, honoring, and you would go into the honoring of Officer Mark Christopher Wagner the second.
Second. And it would also go to the request amendment of the Line of Duty Act.
Yes.
Got anything else, Shannon?
No legal objection to that.
All right. What
Are
number?
we sure about that number?
I think also the board could say, you know, passing it as the next appropriate resolution number, and let
This
them
seems-
time to figure it out.
This seems like an appropriate time to use 2 words.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all. All right. RSA Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, and as you all may be aware, and I think the press has reported, now that Greene County is officially permitted to withdraw from RSA, there was initially a memorandum of agreement or memorandum of understanding, whichever language is more appropriate, that upon that exit, the new members and how it would function, there was a term that Orange and Madison would continue on. I think at that time it was an understanding for like 5 or 6 years, which we were already on the clock for probably at least 18 months of that time. So the concern was, can we get an extension? I want to thank and recognize there have been many conversations that Madison delegation officials have worked with Orange County officials to even create a baseline for this to happen. So I know that Mr. Wright has been working with the newly appointed council of RSA is Stephen Kalos. Stephen Kalos was representing Orange at one point in time when we tried mediation. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Kalos when Mr. Gregg and I were appointed by you as the board to be the Madison County's representation at mediation. That unfortunately did not work out. Stephen Kalos is stepping aside as Orange Council. If there's any Orange County messaging, if you will, for RSA, that'll run through Mr. Latchney to Mr. Kalos and or Mr. Wright as our attorney. So I believe they're still working through the language. I know verbally there is a good feeling of extending this for 10 years. which I think is very good for Madison County, very good for the debt services that are already committed for RSA. Orange County now has the majority membership. The new RSA is recognized as 3 members from Orange and 2 members from Madison County. One of your recent members, Mr. Elliott, was at his first meeting last week. So, Hannon, would you like to touch base a little more, maybe where we're currently at with the MOU as you understand, and if Stefan has indicated any action that Orange is planning to take?
That's because you're not getting any emails. Go ahead, Hannon.
Sure, so we got the updated version yesterday evening. You know, not that it matters a ton. They didn't want to call it an MOU, they called it a First Amendment to the May MOA, but it does have the 10-year period, so it takes us through August of 2033, and then it's got the ability for 10-year renewals. The only part that I think I just need to look at is, one is comparing it to the old MOA, make sure it all lines up, and then 2 is they've got a piece about governance and how it's essentially going to be treated as if it's a department of Orange County, and then just figuring out exactly what the implications are for Madison on that. But it's, all in all, good news.
This is, I think is a good one. I mean, it's kind of works in our favor being small. If they're willing to work with us, I don't see any reason not to work with them in any way, and they've been a good partner so far. I know I'm almost positive they've got this on their agenda tonight as well as just a discussion item. Getting a 10-year taking this on ourselves would be daunting, to say the least, just based on staffing at a minimal.
Yes.
How many people do you think?
Expensive.
Yeah, just beyond belief. I mean, how many people do you think?
I mean,
for just us?
I think probably, 12
Yeah.
kind of is about your number if you're looking at it from water, sewer, and maintenance, and the overhead. Somebody has to be at the billing office, so 12 efficient
I mean, it's a no-brainer,
people.
folks. I mean, and they seem like Orange has been consistent from the start, saying that they would work with us, and I think that's got to play in.
Hannah, I have a question. If the current Orange board would approve this, and another board, I know some of those members aren't gonna run again, I don't think.
No, ma'am.
And another board comes in next year, can they change that?
Well, this is an agreement between the 2 of us, so I don't know that they could unilaterally change this. I suppose they could try to change RSA, but that would be a really difficult process without our agreement.
The big one on this, and this is our opportunity, having Green leave and it being, even though Mark Taylor said it should only take a month to do, it took all this time, like every other person knew he was wrong. Yes, please put that in the paper. Absolutely. Mark Taylor, 100% wrong. I think this is an opportunity where Green or Orange is taking this responsibility on, and nobody wants to go through that again in any way. And if we can work with Orange County as a good partner, as they have been throughout this whole process and then previously, I don't think anybody wants to go down that path of shaking up RSA again at this point.
So I would just, I guess, add, and it probably a question I pose for the board in legal. The good thing is they've got rapport established. We got true professionals on that. Is at some point, it will have to come back as an action item. Does the MOA require a public hearing? And whether it does or not, I guess that's one question, but whether it does, if it's not, would the board still desire to hold one? So I'm just kind of tracking when this gets to an action item.
Let's do a public hearing. Yeah. Let's just do it. Yeah.
So you have to get the version
Yeah.
to see it, unless you think we're at a good point and we can advertise off what we
How
have.
much more movement you see, Hannon? I mean, y'all have been through multiple renditions at this point.
Are we talking about a 2-week notice period and then do it?
Yeah.
So if today's the 25th, I mean, I would ask it to be the second meeting in August, but if you told me it had to be the first one, then
No,
we could make that
no,
happen.
I don't think that's realistic, but I appreciate that. Everybody good on the second meeting in August?
So do a public hearing
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
So we'll add Thank you
Doesn't matter
for
if it's
clarity.
legal or not, let's just do the public hearing. It's a better way to do it. I mean, we'll get everybody's opinion.
Don't
and
print
nobody
that, Gracie.
No, we do more public hearings than anybody. I mean, good gosh, there's no reason not to. Let's do it.
I will
Easy.
have dinner catered that night. We'll have about 3 or 4.
No, let's absolutely do this. Anybody else got anything on this? Thank you, Hannah, and everybody's worked on this. All right, information and correspondence, Office 365 licensing upgrade. Livingston? We're glad you're back from the beach. Yeah,
Good to be back. So, RSA, I hope we have a good relationship with them because I have a house in Orange County.
good.
I have been asked to go over this. Basically, we're coming up here in the next week where we have to up our yearly subscription to Office 365, which is normally that $23,625. And this is going to up that by about 18,000 and some change. 18,155, and that wasn't included in the budget. But we inherited the phones from Michelle in the finance department, and when we did, we started realizing how it's all over the place. People are using their own personal Apple accounts. They're putting on the phones whatever they want to put on them. If we lose them, we can't find them, we can't brick them. Well, this will give us the power to do that. It will work with our Apple NDA. That one? Yeah, but basically what that will do is allow us to have all of our phones under one umbrella. And whether it's the Clarissa, or the sheriff, or us, anybody who's got a county phone's coming under our umbrella. And we will be able to lock those down, set up different scripts that can push specific applications that the different departments use versus them doing it. No one will log in anymore with their own Apple account. It will all be the county Apple account. So it gives us a whole lot more control. We can track them. We can brick them. And if someone loses it, if we can't get it, can't find it, they drop it in the ocean, which I did mine last year, then we will at least know which ocean it's in, but we won't be able to save it. So we need this bad. It's like a whole herd of cats just running around.
All right, I asked earlier, I asked Alan earlier, and he explained it to me, but I'm too dense to understand it, frankly. What is the difference between the standard and the premium? And your recommendation, I understand, is to go with the premium. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, and the difference is not only can we do all those things we just mentioned, we'd have to come up with some other solution to do that anyway. And it would cost us similar to around that. We looked at a few other ones. IBM has a program, off the top of my head, and the cost to do all these were similar. I mean, it's really an 18,000 jump, but we really needed to go this way. And it doesn't just give us that. I mean, Intune, when we get that, it helps us with security. It helps us with the spam. Well, this new business premium, folks are going, hey, why am I getting these emails? We'll have more tools. And if needed, I could do a more in-depth example down into the nuts and bolts of this. But at this point in time, everybody's getting hammered with phishing. Everybody's getting hammered with spam. We will have better tools and all for security also. It's basically a huge security upgrade for us and management. Like I said, in addition to that, the phones, we can do this with laptops. So your laptop is lost or stolen. We're going to know where it's at, or we're going to be able to brick it, things of that. Same thing with the scripts to push applications and things to them. We'll have a lot more control as to what goes on with these remote devices. but it does enhance internal with not just the remote devices, our ability, like I said, to work with the email, our exchange and everything, gives us a bunch more tools to button that stuff up. Everybody's using this these
And
days.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I appreciate IT's time on it, even breaking it down in layman's term for me. We also took the opportunity to meet with Mr. Jewett, who certainly is the subject matter expert in this arena, to be able to kind of vet this a little more. It does sound like a lot of security enhancements, which in this day and age is very concerning, not only on the individual front, but on a county. So it does seem to beef us up in that category. I'm going to speak a little bit on the funding side, and I'd be happy to defer to Mr. Jewett, who's definitely well-versed in this. But,
Before you go funding, Alan,
yes, sir.
do you have more tech items to say about this real quick? What do you have to say real quick? Then we'll go to Mr. Weekly and then Mr. Jewett.
Just specific to the phone issue, when we took it on, initially I went through all of the phones, testing them, seeing where we're at with all of them. This is just for background information. Without any kind of mobile device management, if something happened to those devices where they got locked out, say an iPad is locked out, there's nothing we can do. We happened to purchase an iPad from Amazon a while back, so we don't have the direct serial number for that iPad, or whatever number it was that Apple requires us to show them for them to unlock it for us. That iPad is a brick. We can't touch it. That's $800 down the drain. Same thing for the phones. If we have somebody, just the specific example we have is 2 employees left without revealing their iCloud information. Those phones had Find My iPhone enabled. If that's enabled, we can't touch it. Without their iCloud information, it's another brick. Now, we did manage to get past those 2 phones, but the iPad, there's nothing we can do without any kind of mobile device management to reset it remotely. It's just money down the drain right now.
All right, you picking all this up, Ms. Hoffman? There you go. Ms. Hoffman and I are together on this. Go ahead, Mr.
I got the
Weekly.
easier side of it. This is the side I understand. So Jennifer and I have met with IT to kind of understand it more, but where would funding coming from? So without it being an FY24 budget, where you could pull money from is from it's still in data processing or IT, depends on what you're looking at on the budget sheet as referred to. We had programmed, I think it was about mid-30-some thousand dollars for system administration assistant for the ERP program. The ERP is a new thing for Madison, as well as providing that support to IT for that function of those ERPs. IT has indicated that they do not see us now that they're live in at least different phases of the ERP, not all, but Avinity is live, phase 1 and Tyler's live. We're getting close to phase 2. Phase 3 is getting ready to kick off in August. They feel like they have a better handle, so they don't feel like we're going to touch a lot of that money that's in that account, so it'll be an as-need basis. Therefore, if you are fine with my approach, I was approaching this from administrative side, we would do a line item transfer. I would send Jennifer saying I approve it from that line item over to I believe this is handled under A&S, or there's some line item that deals with subscription underneath the data process. And so the funding is there if
How
you
much is that
support this.
funding? How much is there?
I think it was around 36,000. So you'd be using around, 18K of that for this, so about half. And they've already heard my speech about don't ask for more, Eric, more money.
That's correct.
So they're well aware of that, and I believe we're positioned well. I've had a lot of ERP discussions between finance and IT, and even our other users such as commissioner and treasurer. I do feel like we're still working through some quirks, but we're nowhere near that level of even using a lot of those funds nor exceeding it. So that's the finance side. But certainly Mr. Jewett was there, can speak heavily to what this service may provide.
Yes, thank you. Did get a chance to talk to Bruce, meet with Bruce and Alan and Jonathan on this. This Microsoft Intune is the thing now. It does provide remote mobile management to devices. And, which is important because every device that you have is a door into your network. This allows remote management, administration. It also allows remote security. What I really like about what's happening is that we are moving in the right direction with regard to integrated and comprehensive and cooperative security and IT with other departments in the county, which has been a challenge. And for example, and this is something that I'm glad they took the phones over and they're going to use Intune, because if any VoIP phone, you can plug in a laptop to it, and without this type of remote management, you're in the network. You have bypassed all security. It's like somebody going sneaking down into the basement and unlocking a basement window and letting in, a prowler or a thief. So I think that this is going to move us a big step in the right direction, which needs to continue, because we cannot have disparate security approaches across county departments. That's inviting catastrophe, and it only takes one incident. So this is good, and I'm going to throw a plug for these guys because I see what goes on behind the scenes. But since Alan's come on, that department's performance has improved dramatically, mainly because now Alan's handling a lot of the fires that Bruce was just consumed having to put out every day. And Alan has his professional progression and his role has exceeded expectations as far as I'm concerned. And this is another example of what we had talked about by adding the position, whereby we're able to reduce consultant fees over the long term, which is what we want to do. So this package, I think, is really good, and it gives us some other things we can work with SharePoint and some of the storage stuff we have to work on.
And also, taking into consideration over the next year, we do expect our exchange to be moved to Azure, which is in the cloud. Intune also works with all of the Microsoft tools in Azure that we're going to be moving to. And it's their baby. So they've made it so that it's smoothest integration. It's definitely the way I think to be going. In order to go into, when we go into the cloud for our exchange, we're going to need this. So and like I said, if you want us to go into a deeper dive and spend more time getting it in layman's terms across the board, how deep this goes, we can do it. There's all kinds of stuff that we need to be doing. Also, the insurance for the cybersecurity, it's coming up. They're going to dictate to us anyway, eventually. We don't know the exact day that's going to happen, but it's coming. But that kind of leads into the cybersecurity proposal that is coming up in the near future, that's already been worked out and budgeted for FY24. That is another proposal that I don't have it in front of me. It's only a 2-page proposal. It's got this little circle with all the different things you're getting and the layers of protection. But it will be something that we're going to be moving to also.
But it looks like you're going out for potentially more vendors on the cybersecurity side, because don't we have a proposal from A&S at this point for this? And it looks like what Skyline uses is, I'm stealing this all from Alan, uses Helix. So we're going back to try to find different applications or different providers of this cybersecurity?
Well, I don't, that would be a decision of the board and the county administrator. At this point, I have not began to do that, but we certainly could if you guys decide. Jonathan?
Before we dive down this next path, I mean, are there questions on this original proposal that are out there? And why would we wait and not just go ahead and pass this thing?
How do I say this? Structures carry. So administratively, I wanted to bring this as information. Yeah, information. One, he's got a deadline, but I feel like it's been vetted enough to know that we need it, and there is monies there identified. So it's bringing to you as information. If the board wants to act, you can. It's not necessary. Please don't take it the wrong way.
Do you want to wait for them to get more layman terms?
Well,
I'm
this.
afraid of whatever that means.
Well, there's two different things,
Lord.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to
Yeah,
make sure we're not
please.
talking about two different things.
No.
So what was only included in your packet tonight is the Microsoft 365
Yes.
upgrade. The security proposal, I want to be
That's-
clear, that we will look to talk to some other vendors. That is no, even if they're watching tonight, that is no slight of a current provider. That's part of our, doing our due diligence and ensuring, what else is out there? Maybe there's a different level of service or
That's-
component. And my idea is we would sit down and have another meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Jewett, I know we always call meetings, but we're going to bring that back around. We're going to take advantage, if you will, of the expertise we have available to us. So this tonight is merely saying this is what we're going through on the subscriptions, unless you say
No,
we don't
that's
like that
why-
idea.
That's why I stopped you before.
Okay.
On the basis that I do, I think that, and it, maybe it's just me, I mean, all of this kind of blends together. And they are tied together as components of our total network and then network security. The only thing that we have information on, and we have other information that's provided in the packet, but it looks like we're gonna go back out and see if we can hone that a little bit more, is we do have this, potential upgrade, with the Office 365, and the recommendation is to go with the premium package that's $41,780. You probably are you do a line item transfer to fund it. Does anybody else have anything? Is there any reason why we should not proceed and pass this tonight, and let these folks go on with this? What would y'all like to do?
So it's up to you. You can either vote, or I can administratively do it as long as you're fine with it, because the money is in your
Everybody good?
approved budget.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Now let's talk cybersecurity. Anything else on that?
Cybersecurity, Bruce, anything further you have to add on that?
No,
I think that's something we can bring back probably more as a staff report once we go through some additional vendors and have another meeting, such as the one we recently had to discuss the 365. There is a level of service, so when you see Pillar 4, and that's just structured by different pillars of what you get within that service, so it's clear of what you're paying for or what's the next available service. So we'll have an opportunity, I think it's best to bring that back as a staff report. Yes, we have the FY '24 budgeting. IT and Ms. Warren did a fantastic job at some point. I think you've seen it before. She's got a spreadsheet that just, I mean, every item that's in that 100+ K number that was in data processing, that's broken down for that. So even though the money's there, our approach is be more aware of what else is out there, service providers, level of services, and then we'll bring it back as a staff report if that pleases the board.
Do you have anything else, Carly, on this?
No.
Jim,
No, I'm
is there
good.
anything else we need to consider on this?
No, just to reiterate the conversation, the next step with regard to our cybersecurity program, that's being researched right now. And there are some things to consider aside, we want to find a provider that's going to do the job at the cheapest price. And there's some other aspects as to what we actually want in an elevated cybersecurity program. Along those lines, I did ask Bruce to summarize the pen test that was done last October and the policy going forward with that.
What is
Kim?
that? What is that?
That's a.
You know what a pen
No,
test
I don't.
is?
It's basically
They
a
attack you.
test to see
All
how
right.
secure your network is.
Okay.
Tim, I sent you a document in the mail, in your mail. Can you get to that on that computer?
For
It's an Excel
For
document.
the ping, for that report,
I didn't bring it tonight.
we can pull it up, but I think what Mr. George asked for, do you have a summary you would like to give on what that report showed, or?
Well, it's got a whole bunch of different stuff in it, and in all honesty, I did not go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And it was last October. So I did not have time today to go through it because we lost the EMS building.
No.
Is it okay, Mr. Jewett and remaining members of the board, that we'll give some attention to that report that was referenced when we come back with the staff report? He can cover that report as well as any recommendations on the cybersecurity. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, the cursory review that I did of the report, there were no critical problems identified in the pen test.
Correct.
And they attack the network, they get in the network, check all the endpoints, the nodes to see if they can mess with them. They couldn't do it. So there was a really good level of security. Now, does that mean that we don't try to enhance it? We should try to enhance it. The other issue with pen testing is, and we really should be doing this at least twice a year, Recommendations are up to once a quarter, but we felt like for Madison County, twice a year would be sufficient. But this is, I mean, it's $750 to do one of these pen tests, and it's cheap insurance. So that's something that will be part, it's gonna get me. You're trying to electrocute me, Bruce.
You gotta do a little bit more PA work.
So that's where we're at on that, but that's something that we can,
Yeah, and probably would be a good, we're coming up due for that now. We got the money in the budget to schedule one of them. When this cybersecurity, when we do select a plan, and everybody understands exactly what we're getting out of that, we've got some holes to plug. It's just that flat out simple. So I don't want to even say it right now in this meeting, but I'm more than happy to sit down with you. And there's some real infrastructure vulnerabilities that we need to close up. And we've had them for a while. I don't know
How long have you been working for us, Bruce?
over 3 years.
How long? Over 3 years. We've stood up an IT department in over 3 years. We just got our second. Of course, there's going to be some vulnerabilities, but it sounds like we're going down the right path with this.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of positive going on.
Yeah.
I mean, with Alan, I'm going to echo that. You know, I've brought him along well.
Yeah.
But he's doing a good job. It does free me up to do other things like we saved the money on the Tyler without having that consultant because I can tell right now we're going to be able to handle almost all. We could have some catastrophic thing that's deep down into the intricacies of the API or something like that. That you know we're not SQL administrators yet. But there's certain things that we may, if the right widget breaks, we might need to reach out. And I definitely think that's enough adequate money for that, what we've got left over from what we borrowed from. But Tyler, we got this.
Good.
The whole thing with the miscalculation that was happened, and I won't mention any names, was consultants, not that I'm trying to talk bad about anybody, but when we first put the CRP project together, there were a couple other folks that were leading it, and it's not their field. They did not know, but turns out that some things were underestimated considerably. So we did just have to spend the money to upgrade the backup system, or we wouldn't even be able to start using Laserfish. And it wasn't just the Laserfish. It was our backups without Laserfish and the ERP backups was not big enough for the normal backups we need to do. I didn't, the time, you know, when I first got here, I wasn't part of that decision-making process. But, you know, that did cost us. It did cost us, and it hurt. But we had to do it. But no, things are going good. I mean, the fiber's coming here. We're just waiting on a couple jumpers up at the courthouse. Then we got a couple poles, the REC who came in town today and knocked all of our power out. Doing some make-ready on those poles, and we got the 414 building online. So the radio system will be gone. Will be fiber across the infrastructure here, except for that side of town past Waverly. Definitely, we're doing more. But today we had a switch burn out in the power outage. All right, just as an example, waving our flag, we were able to take a switch, take it down there, configure it, get it in place, pull out the one that was failed. That would have cost us a couple grand if we had to call INS to do that. I think, you know, I gotta look at that. Sometimes I'm like, they charge us for things that I don't know why they charge us, and sometimes they don't charge us. But that sort of stuff's going on now a lot, where we go out there, and we fix that. Social services, a lot going on, and we've taken on a lot more. And it's fun. It's busy. We like it.
Dustin, I see you're over there. You must be with Miss Hoffman and I on this IT stuff.
Been the longest 15 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, you people love this stuff. I mean, good Lord. Yeah, keep going with it. We all notice. We appreciate them
you.
every way.
Yes.
And we don't cover nothing guys wanna come and ask us about it, sit down, we will talk your ears off. We're excited about it.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm telling you, I took Jim's comment as a slight on you, Bruce, but I guess it is just departments kind of going on. But no, y'all are doing a great job, kind of getting us, trying to catch us up, catch Madison County up to 21st century.
We're looking good.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir. All right, well, stick around, good. New county website. Alan, I assume this is you.
Start off. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. I'm just so used to Clay kicking me like a dog.
I'm
I
telling
can
you,
hardly
keep this
recognize any
going.
compliments anymore. And Bruce, thank you for your also, but less kind words. Here we are. We have our website. It is up and running. The only preface I will say with this is, first, I will admit wrongdoing on my part. I expected us to be up and running yesterday. I did not realize that our DNS provider-ish person who basically tells all of the traffic to go where it needs to go. Yeah, I'll go back to he's filling in that form. The DNS provider who tells all of our traffic to go to the new website rather than the old one, we had to wait for them. That is a state agency, and no matter how hard we screamed at them, they would not move any faster. But we're here, the new website is up, and the other thing, Clarissa is gone, but I will mention it anyway. Within 2 hours of the new website starting to populate, we actually had a job application
All right.
for the victim witness coordinator. And
Gracie, you've been to the new website. Oh, that's a bummer. You're, yeah, there you go.
while Bruce,
It is.
what I would say is we are on a TTL, which is a time to live delay of 6 hours, which basically means if they activated it at 1:30, the website should be fully
See,
live
he's still on the
everywhere.
old one. Yeah, apparently, Jim knows all about this, I'm sure. Thankfully, apparently some of us are going to be able to pull up right currently, and we've got to be like 3 hours deep or something. Some of us are going to get the old website like Dustin's on right now. Some of us are going to get the new website. You're saying by tomorrow, everybody will get the new website.
Yep, it should be around 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, should be fully migrated.
Jim, have you been on the new website?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think once it gets all completed, I think it's gonna be pretty good.
We have, I'm just gonna put it plain, the new website is a massive improvement over the old. We have a lot of functionality we did not have before. The look of it is improved. We have maintained.
You're not allowed on the web at
I
all.
don't know what that is. Web Threat Shield. Is that bad?
Yep, we just covered that. That's a problem.
WebRoot. WebRoot, I think, is it popping up in your lower right corner?
Upper
Or is it
right.
on, when you went into your browser? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, that is expected. That is good.
That's a good.
ANS recently replaced our ESET with WebRoot. So if you get that, that's perfectly normal.
Mr. Berry, are we looking to bring up the website this evening to go through a couple features, or?
I have it up. I was waiting for Bruce to fill out that purchase order form.
Oh, we do that later. Do that later. Please.
I'm new.
Oh, yes. What it was, ANS gave us a list of devices that have been off of our network for a period of time where they have not received the update. So, Ms. Charlotte, your computer was one of those that was listed. We'll basically just need to take it for, what, a few hours maybe, Bruce, or a day? We'll replace your ESET with WebRoot and
All
we'll
right.
be good to go.
Hey, Bruce,
There's
can we
so
go,
much of this.
can we go live, please, on the website
I'm telling
and
you.
do the
Well,
PO afterwards?
I don't know what's going on with this stuff. Let's go to the new website.
I'm
Talk
on the
to
new
us. There you go. Cardi's
on
on
the
the new
new
one. That's it.
Alan, if
Tell us
y'all can
what
get
you
it
want us
loaded,
to
please.
remember about this.
So as Alan, they're going up to get that loaded, members of the board.
Let's
they're
talk
gonna,
about VDOT real quick.
okay, you may
VDOT.
not. That
Yeah,
may get you in a
VDOT.
bad
Let's talk about
mood.
something that we can shoot at. VDOT. Go with VDOT.
All right, there's a few roads I want to give you updates on, things I was just tracking to hope to get updates on. So Turner Drive is still a work in progress. We asked the letter to submit a request, so we had it in writing with the undersigned to get the VDOT to see if we can push it forward, because that would lead to surveying and they can determine what obviously a cost estimate will. You've already put the first half of Turner Drive in your 6-year plan. The idea was use tele fees, which is monies that are designated to come to the county. I think there was almost $200K remaining last time, and you wanted to get some estimates of some additional roads to bring back for consideration for next year in the spring's 6-year plan. They said they didn't think they had enough information. I said, you guys are the experts. Tell me what it is, what templates you need, whatever. Let's get this thing signed, get it going. So Carrie is supposed to give me a call on that soon. I talked to Ed to see when we can actually get that started. This is going on quite extensive, but we're not giving up. So the goal is to get whatever signatures, whatever they need to get surveying out there and get an estimate. So that's my update there. Core Road, I went back and watched the meeting, I think at your 6-year plan, or one of the meetings that I was not present. It was discussed, and there was a request of a second traffic count to be performed. They initially went out there. I don't think that traffic counter was put in the right place, but bottom line, they went out there again. They looked at the width of the road to see if there was, it would qualify for your rural rustic program. They reported back that the road is too narrow. There would be needs of additional right-of-way should the county want to proceed. I do have a resident that has asked about this that I need to give an update to. They would like to see this proceed forward, but I need kind of some direction from the board of if it's not wide enough. These road projects are kind of case by case to see if it's a tele-fee fund or funding source, if it's a revenue share. When you hear words such as revenue share, that's dollar for dollar. If the road construction needs to be $500,000, they would be looking at the county if you're going to do a revenue share. And this is all resolution agreement. This doesn't happen overnight.
Direct funds from the county? Or
Yes, sir.
Revenue
share.
Not appropriated funds through VDOT?
Correct.
All right.
Tele-fee is different.
So let's just be done with this. Does anybody have any interest of Madison County direct tax dollars going into road improvements?
No.
There you go. That one's not. It would seem to me that River Road, especially since we're talking about rural rustic, that is a 6-year plan type of conversation. We just went through it this year. We know the 6-year plan is a 6 to 18-year plan. Have them come back at this upcoming 6-year plan process in April or May, and then we can shoot from there.
That's for VDOT and the resident.
Yeah.
All right. I will contact them. What I imagine I'll get feedback from VDOT is they're telling you the width is X, so without widening it, it would not qualify for any 6-year programming.
Wouldn't the 6-year plan with the potential of it not being as wide as needed, the 6-year plan going down that path and all those projects have to be fully funded,
Yes, sir.
which gives you all that extra time. That would, if we were to deem the road as part of the 6-year plan, that would give proper amount of time to gather the correct easements in anticipation, if added, to a fully funded project.
What they will want you to do is like what we're doing with Turner Drive, basically, is identify what program would this qualify for, meaning as far as the fund, if it's tele-fees or revenue share. And then if it's revenue share, a commitment from the county to move forward. You have to fund things that begin the process, such as surveying, which is what we're going through in Turner Drive. It's just a different funding source before it would even get to being considered in the 6-year plan. Because if something comes to you at that time, they usually have an estimate. So they've gone through and done their engineering to determine the road length, the width, if it's ditching, what's needed, and what's the estimated amount, and how many years it takes to fund that.
All right, so you're doing surveying on Turner.
We're trying to get it there, but we have a good funding source for that.
Where is that funding source coming
That's from your tele-fee fund, so.
So that's non-matching.
Correct.
So it would appear that, and we're trying with the surveying, we're trying to go down the acquisition of potential additional easements.
Correct.
And it's not we, it's VDOT. Why would this be any different than the River Road project?
I believe, and I will follow up back to the board as old business or information at a future meeting, the difference is the funding source that it's going to take for this project. They are due here, I believe, August the 8th. So I believe I'm going to ask her to be prepared to speak to it. What criteria determines telefee fund projects versus revenue shares? To be able to give, obviously, if I'm struggling, like, give me a good education on it, but as well as informing the board of what's the difference. Why is telefee a good designation for Turner Drive? And I'm thankful for that because it's no revenue share versus what would be the revenue source to fund Core Road hypothetically, should you want to go through and obtain right of way and put it to construction. So she will be here, Ms. Shepherd will be here on the 8th, and it'll probably be a good opportunity to ask that question.
Let's go down that path.
Okay.
What other VDOT issues have you approached?
Desert Road is on the 6-year plan, and I had a resident ask about that who lives on that. What I'm happy to report, originally, if you may recall, they set that up in 2 different phases. What they've done in 2 different phases is actually work through the widening or adding gravel here or whatever prep work they need to do before paving. They have indicated to me that paving will begin between either mid to late August of this year, and they will pave that all at one time. It won't be different phases of paving. So that's what they've committed to me. The Smart Scale project, that did make it through CTB. I did ask him, I said, hey, it made it through the scoring. It was going to be recommended by CTB, and he said, no, it made it through to CTB. So the next thing would they be developing their scoping, and that means kind of what will that project look like and how it would shift, and then they would, from there, approach property owners about any right-of-way acquisition. So they really didn't commit to a hard date. They just said scoping could occur in September.
That's roundabout stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I should have clarified, because there's 2 smart scale. One that will go to work soon for construction is the Shelby Road area.
What does soon mean to VDOT?
What's that?
What does soon mean to VDOT?
I'll just give you the timelines they gave
that
me.
seems
So,
fair.
so the scoping of and thank you, sir, the smart scale project I'm referring to is the roundabout that, I think this was like the second or third time we applied for it, and it was awarded, to improve the intersection of Fairground Road. I think that's South Blue Ridge Turnpike and Orange Road at that intersection. So the scoping of the work, that's where they define, all right, where does this road gonna lie, what properties, the expansion, the footprint, if you will, limit of disturbance, and then they go out and start talking to property owners. So they think that may begin in September, not beginning construction, but beginning the planning of the scope of work, and then they would approach landowners for any acquisition
What
needed.
about the one at Shelby?
The one at Shelby should start construction late this year.
Late this year, there you go.
But I'm gonna take notes here to prepare Carrie for when she shows up on the 8th, plan on speaking on these things and an update of both smart scale projects. Hearing from your VDOT representative would be more appropriate.
All right, who else has VDOT-related questions? Things going good up there on Emmett?
Well, got issue at Gibson Hollow Road, which I guess I'd like for you to
That's one I gotta talk to Mr.
So
Barr.
they went down up Etland Road and they patched and resurfaced in a lot of areas. Where you're going into Ducard, which is off of Gibson Hollow Road. Gibson Hollow Road is like this, and then Ducard goes off to the right. But when they did it, the drop off is such that his bottling tractor trailer drags getting in and out of there. Any of the construction equipment, their jack stands that are on the front of their trailers are dragging and getting bent coming out of there. Not so much going in too much, but coming out. So he asked, Scott Elliff, the owner, asked me we could ask them if they'd come in and shave it down a little bit or something, because it is tearing up equipment now.
All right.
And
I apologize, I have not spoke to Mr. Gar yet. That is on my list. I will
Okay.
talk directly to our local office to see if that's something that could be handled as a maintenance request and not a big production. So I will let you know and the rest of the board know how that conversation goes.
There's 2 huge tankers sitting in at Greystone right now. Look like tar tankers, and all the paving equipment was sitting there at the Smith Farm before you go down to Pass Run. What's that about? Anybody?
I'll check my VDOT paving schedule real quick. I'm not sure any part of that
Nobody
area
knows.
was to be paved.
VDOT.
This is on North Blue Ridge Turnpike.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing towards, Standardsville this year. We were gonna have to wait for majority of our roads till like
They've already done a
2025.
lot of patching up there on that road.
If they start paving 231 up there, Jim, I'll call you. You can come up there,
Oh, yeah, bring a stick.
moving back to 230.
I'll bring a busload of people up there, and I guarantee you they'll move it to there. I'm still getting
So I don't know
complaints
what
about
that was.
it.
Oh, it's bad.
It's awful.
It is
It's
bad.
terrible. And
Right,
what's
Ro-
worse is explaining VDOT's logic behind it. It really makes you look stupid.
Get Livingston to explain it. I'll take care of that. Good Lord. All right, so soon, Emmett Road, Gibson Hollow, we're gonna talk about a handful of other roads. We're gonna try to figure out when they're gonna get going on Shelby. That's about it. Anybody else got anything on this? All right, terrific. Let's go back to IT. Tell us about the website, Alan.
All right, well, here she is in all her glory. I wish more members of the public were here to see it. Thanks,
Does look
Gracie.
good.
So what I'll do real quick is just do a quick overview of the main facets of the website. If y'all have specific things you'd like to look at or me to explain, feel free to jump in at any time. So here she is. You'll probably recognize a lot of the little buttons down here at the bottom. These are our regular old buttons from the old website. We do have two new additions, which is the forms and the employees only section. So the employees only is our intranet. It is for employees only. That is what we'll be sharing a lot of our only employee private information. Finance has their own, HR, IT has training videos and all of that included on there as well for any employees that need extra training on the website or anything like that. The forms page is specific to the public, so essentially that is what I envisioned as being it's like a forward-facing document center for the public. So if I wanted to go get a handgun permit, for example, I would go onto the forms page and I would go into the clerk of the circuit court. And let's see if it'll load for me. Hopefully we're getting there. Yep. So clerk of the circuit court who handles handgun permits. Boom, there's all of them for you, right listed down there. It's basically the same thing for any other department that would have forward-facing forms for the public to fill out, so.
But Alan, you just clicked open in a new page. People have to do that? I mean, when you click that forms, it said open in a new link. You have to do that?
So I was just trying to be extra careful because the website may not be fully populated
Oh, okay.
since we're still
All
on
right.
that. But
'Cause-
all they'll have to do is click on this forms, and they will be brought straight here. Let me get out of live edit mode, just so it looks.
What it looks like to
That's
me
fine.
is you've got a forms, and then it's broken down based on all the different groupings of forms.
Yes, sir.
Building department, clerk of the court, commissioner of revenue, county administrator, and so on. And then subcategories come off of those that give you the ability to access the actual documents. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
All right.
So skipping past the form center, we'll go back to the main page. Let's just scroll on. All of the pictures are public domain and were donated by Bruce Livingston. Except for that one. That one is an aerial drone footage of the firemen's parade. I'm not entirely sure, but Civic Plus got a hold of that somehow, and they included it in our site.
I
So
think it was Tracy.
I don't know where it
Yeah,
came from.
it's Tracy, and it should be map drones. All right, keep going.
All right, so below that is our Madison News page. This will essentially show any news updates we have for the county that are non-emergency related. So right now, we have on there, we have a new website. That's the biggest news for the day. The HyperReach alert system is also on there. Brian was big that we wanted this wherever the public could find it. So we have multiple links to that up in the mega menus up at the top. There is one here in the news section, and if you'll look up in the top left, the HyperReach symbol is this one right here in the middle. People can get to it from any page. If they want to sign up, they can do it at any time. The last one is the county business directory, which I've been populating with everything from the Chamber of Commerce page essentially. So any of the businesses we have in Madison, I've been putting them on that page.
Correct.
You can search and filter them by type. So we have a lot of wineries, a lot. So if you were looking for specifically a winery, all you'd have to do is come up here to categories, breweries and wineries, search. There are all of them listed for you. Ball Top, Blue Quartz, all of them. It's just a very easy way to find out what you're looking for in the county, so people can spend money here rather than anywhere else. All right, heading back to the main page. Let's keep heading down, and this is our new and improved calendar center. So right now, all we have included right here, the clerk of the court has her own calendar, so she won't be using this one. This is board meetings, joint meetings, anything that basically falls in this room will be on this calendar for the public to see on the home page. The events tab doesn't have anything yet, but we will start populating that once we have events. The street festival is coming up. That'll be on there for the public to see. Now going back up to the top, this is also very familiar. We have our mega menus up here, which covers all of these tabs, as you can see. The only big difference I think might throw people a little bit is for the government tab, elected officials are no longer under. In our old website, government basically included every department. So rather than doing that, we split the elected officials up under government, and the departments have their own tab because there are a lot of them. So that's very simple. Anyone who knows what kind of department they're looking for, they can find it lickety split. The government tab is mostly, oh goodness, I can't speak today, is mostly all of our Board of Supervisors stuff, any of the county committees that you appoint, they'll be here. I will throw Kim under the bus in just a second to let her go through that part of the website. You thought you were getting out of it, you thought wrong. The other tabs are the community tab, which is basically just a link to some of the other pages in the county. The library is included. We have a link to the tourism page / Chamber of Commerce, Parks and Rec is included in there as well. And the how do I this is essentially also a public-facing one. This is where all of the questions the public may have. If they've got a question, it should be there. We have an FAQ section fully built. The VDOT road issues. Hopefully people will use that to report road issues rather than calling a lot to do that. We also have the other big thing I will point out right now is county notifications. Right now we have a set of 3. We have Notify Me, which is essentially we can send alerts from county departments. So the treasurer, if the treasurer has something, there's some sort of tax update that people need to get, they can sign up for alerts directly to the treasurer. They will get those alerts sent to their phone or email, depending on how they sign up for it. The next level up is our alert center. That one is essentially a website-based emergency alert system. So if you remember the old website, we had a ticker, which was eventually replaced by a top bar. It's essentially the same thing. So right now it's set up for facility closures. So if we have an inclement weather condition or a tree falls on the power line out back like it did a while back, we can let people know, hey, this building's closed, it's a hazard, don't come. And then the highest level, as I said before, is HyperReach. That's our community alert system. If there is a massive alert that people need to be alerted for by location or by there's a massive flood coming, that's HyperReach. So we have 3 tiers of notification set up for the members of the public. What I've included right below that is a using the website page. So basically it gives an overview of what I've just said for the public. This is what these features do. This is if you want Notify Me, HyperReach, or the Alert Center. It explains everything for them so they know what they're going to do and how to do it. Let's see. I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to look at.
Kim, what items do you want to talk about? And you realize that we're well past our 15 minutes of IT talk per meeting. What would you like to say?
All right. Well, something I was pretty excited about was if I was looking at other counties' pages, and this is something that they had as well, and ours was lacking previously. So there's a main page. If you go under government, there's boarding committees. So you can click that, and you see this page right here that says all boards and committees. And on the left in the blue, there are county committees. And then there's boarding committees, and then there's external. So you can see who's on the border committee, what it does, the term length, supporting documents, a lot of external committee and boards have like separate websites, so you can access those. If we have bylaws or any of those documents, they are uploaded on that as well. So when we redo terms, I'll continue to update that. So I think it's important that the community knows that these are here and what we have going on and who's on those boards. There's also on the left the application to fill out online. So people who are like Ms. Edwards applying to be on a committee, they can do the form online and it gets emailed to me. And there's another one that's going to be posting openings, so that'll be another form of advertising for that. It'll be located right there. And then another one I wanted to point out is on the main page. This is more for the public, not that we have a lot of it here. Wanted to point out where the agendas and minutes are going to be located. So you can find it under the government tab, or if you go to the main page, it's one of the bottom buttons.
Just like the old one.
Yes, just like the old one. So if you click there, it is a little different. Instead of having a separate section for agenda and a separate section for agenda packet, they are combined. So if you, underneath the date, you can click that blue writing, and that will take you to the agenda. And then if you look back on the screen, there's a little, so you see minutes, so there'll be a little blue check that you can select to look at the minutes. And then by media, there's a little TV. And if you click that, it'll pull up our links so you can watch the meetings virtually.
Good. Hannon, you got all this? That's the way to be.
Alan, did
Jonathan,
you-
what else?
Did you want to run through that notification? I know we're past 15 minutes, but run through if John Doe wants to sign up for a notification that there's going to be, tax deadline or whatever it may be from a department. This is the subscription base you've heard me talk about, and I've talked about the citizens. Ms. Montgomery, for example, they're excited. So we want to encourage folks that there's, not to be confused, HyperReach, hurricanes coming, active shooter, that's those kind of notifications. This here, it's a kind of a la carte. If you want to select, you want Parks and Rec news or you don't. Or you want all of the news that's listed by departments, and these are some of our default departments, if you will, who would generally push out information, then you choose what you want to select to receive information on. So I think it's a really good feature that we didn't have before, because folks will say, I'm not informed. Well, we want you to be informed. You all funded this. The team, not I, these folks have worked diligently on it to create this content. But really, it's a source, even for myself, if I want to see some news, what's Parks and Rec doing, what's so forth. It's a good way to do that. Or so some folks don't want to be hounded. They only want to know certain features. They select that one feature. So I do think this is an enhancement. It's one that's obviously near and dear to me, is why I'm bringing it up tonight. But there are many features on this website that our last website, which was award-winning, did not have. And part of it is things evolve. And we have some leading folks that really know how to set up a website and really think of it, not only their items they like to see, but what would be best serving for the public. So that's kind of my plug. Anything else on the Notify Me kind of subscription?
So the only other thing I would mention is that the sign-up is very easy. There's two ways to do it. There's the preferred way that we would like to have people do is up at the top of our website, you'll see a website sign-in. This will essentially ask you to create an account, and you don't have to go any further, but once you've created the account, your email will appear right here, and all you have to do is come down here and pick which ones you want. So it'll auto be filled in once you sign in. If you want to include your phone number in there as well, you can click on the phone icon, you will get text messages. The Alert Center is also included on this page. It's essentially just an upgraded version of the regular old Notify Me. It puts a button up at the top that says this is an alert. The Notify Me is just an alert sent to the person. The Alert Center is an alert sent to the website.
All right.
Yep, that is that.
Ironically, somehow this has made everybody except me close their computer. This looks good. It looks good, and if it encourages transparency and communicating with citizens, and we're doing it the right way.
Looks good.
Yeah, good work.
Alan, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a version that comes out, pushed out optimized to smartphones and tablets?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
There you go. All right. Good. That's the best we've had yet. Good. Is it?
That
Much
is
cheaper.
correct. We will be saving, I believe it's $6,000 a year, thanks
That's
to
a
our
lot better.
switchover.
That's
So,
great.
Yep, we got a better website and we save
Yeah.
money.
You should have started with that. I mean,
You
good
gotta
God.
save the best for last.
He wanted to wake
$6,000.
everybody up, you know?
No, thank you for working on this and doing what's right. I appreciate it a bunch. I know it's a bunch of work. Anybody else got anything on the website? Yes.
The one to the right. Yeah, what is that?
Not a cowboy.
Link to what? Oh,
Yeah.
Last thing I'll end with, the website is very modular. So if we ever want to make significant changes, we can do that. If we want to add more links, we can do it. It's whatever y'all deem is necessary or we want to see, we can see it.
Alan, on the internal side, because we have internal and external customers, is our IT ticket and facility ticket systems on this?
Yes, sir.
Can you show the facility real quick? Because I don't think I ever, we revealed that to the board. I know that was something that when we talked during the budget time, do we buy a software program or not? You developed it. Can you show that to the board real quick? If you don't mind.
Make it quick.
Do you
All right,
want to
we'll do it
see
very
the
quickly.
actual, the form or the actual planner?
Go through, do a ticket. Mooney doesn't care, he'll get one. Go through and do a facility ticket. Something that he'll look at tomorrow. Don't say the courthouse is flooded. And at some time, this spits out data, so we're gonna get eventually to a facility maintenance report, but it's got some metrics in it, so tickets open, tickets closed, that kind of stuff. But based on feedback, Alan went out and created this form, this fillable form. And while it may not be some of that labor data metric stuff you get with some of the other, like e-work order or school dude or whatever packages, it does at least give us a way for the information be submitted by the user. They get confirmation that it was submitted, and when Mooney on the facility side closes out, they get that email back that it's been closed out. So at least it's a communication tool as well as tracking what's broke, what needs to be fixed. So we're encouraging department heads, I think I've said this at least 3 times at a staff meeting, fill this out. If it's emergency, call him, he needs to pick up. But if it's your general run-of-the-mill stuff, whether it's he or he's gonna assign it to another maintenance person, let's use the system, just like we do IT,
How much does this cost us?
whatever,
That's what I was looking
Alan's
for.
salary.
This is great.
So-
Everything you saw right
Hey,
there
this
was
is-
included in our Microsoft subscription.
You don't need, yeah, that looks great. It really looks good. Being able to track it, to come back with full reports is neat. That's about as organized as you could be.
Good job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Who else has questions or comments about IT? All right, public comment. Public comment. All right. We do have closed session. Thank you.
so I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 for personnel, 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good.
This conference is no longer being recorded.